Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another Retro Adventures. The end of another week, the end of another poll. We've got a fantastic win for Celtic Double-Cross for Shadowrun. Now as usual, we'll be going over to the desktop to have a wee look through that in a second. And I'll be back at the end of the video with some other channel related stuff and some other poll related stuff. Before I do that, I'd like to talk about my Patreons, who this week I have been told know who hunts the hunters. Now these are wonderful people who make all of this possible, so their efforts are very much appreciated and I'd like to thank them from the absolute bottom of my heart. Now if you'd like to join them and help support the channel, and I sure wish you would, or you'd like to see these videos a week early, or you'd like to see one of the other levels of patronage we've got, then there's a Patreon in the description down below. If you check it out, it'd be very much appreciated. But anyway, let's have a look at Celtic Double-Cross. So, this is Celtic Double-Cross, which came out for the Shadowrun role-playing game from the Facade Corporation. It came out in 1993. And it's another one of the adventures where the characters are away from home. This time they're going to Ireland. The Shadowrun version of it, Tir Na Nog, where elves have basically taken over the entire island of Ireland, both Northern Ireland and the Republic. And the players are going there, so they're going to be very much fish out of water. They're going to be stripped of the most offensive of their weapons, they're going to be away from their contacts, etc. So this is a formula they've used many, many times in adventures recently. The batch that I've been covering, we had the one where they're in the Tir Na Nog, we've had the ones where they're in Scotland. Just it becomes such a common idea to take the players away from where they're used to being and strip them of most of their support structure, so they're just reliant on themselves, which is an interesting idea, but I do feel like it's becoming too common. However, this is written by Carl Sargent and Mark Gascoigne, who are two phenomenally good writers. They did a lot of stuff for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, and they have a very, very good feeling for Ireland. So a lot of elements of this adventure are based on real-world things. There's a large part of it based around terrorism, which was very prevalent in the British mindset, at least, of what was going on in Ireland and Northern Ireland in the late 80s, early 90s. So it feels very, very different from other adventures. There's a lot going on in it, and my summary, before I start getting into details, is that it relies on the games master a lot. There's so much going on in here which kind of requires the players to be a bit railroaded. So the games master has to do a lot of work. But let's go over to the back cover before we delve inside. So, Celtic Double-Cross, renowned as a land of wonders, Tir Na Nog brims with the ancient elven art and sophisticated elven nobles, powerful magic and cutting-edge technologies. But beneath this culture facade lies a dark mix of long-simmering feuds and Machiavellian plots. Now add a dash of good old UCAS politics, and you have a Byzantine brew of betrayal and bloodshed, and Mickey Finn with a lethal kick. Celtic Double-Cross is a Shadowrun adventure for advanced players and games masters. It is compatible with the Shadowrun 2nd edition and the original 1st edition rules. The Tir Na Nog sourcebook is required for play. I would say that to a degree, yes, you do need the sourcebook, but you could make the stuff up. You don't really need to rely on it so much. Now, I've been asked in the past to warn people of when I'm going into details within it, so if you don't want spoilers, turn off now. Anyway, inside, the artwork isn't that great in places. I dislike this, which is basically a photocopy of a Celtic cross with some artwork added to it. It'd have been far better if they'd got somebody to draw out a Celtic cross, which isn't going to be that difficult. They're just sort of patterns on it. I don't know why they've gone for this really bad reproduction. But the rest of it, there's nice artwork, very much standard for Fazza. The presentation's lovely, as always. We start off with a background story, introduction, how to use the book, preparing the adventure, and the plot synopsis, which again is quite long. There's a full page of text here, it carries on, and most of this is background. What the players are actually doing is very much briefly covered these 3 paragraphs or so, as it covers what happens in the adventure. The rest is all set up. Basically, what's happening is there is a election going on in New York for mayor. And one of the candidates, McNamara, wants to go to Ireland to play up his Irish heritage, gaining him votes from that segment of the New York community. However, he has some bad links with the mafia, who are wanting some information off him, and then they will help him win the election with payment from that information. However, one of his team, McSweeney, doesn't want this to happen. He doesn't like the connection with the mafia, so he's going to get his boss assassinated, basically. So he's going to tell terrorists within Ireland of the connections to the mafia and how the mafia are going to make inroads into Ireland, to the Tir. So they will make a hit on him, and he intends to blame the players for it. So the players are hired as bodyguards. They will act as bodyguards for a while, giving them some time to play around, until they are at the point where the hit happens. They will escape, and they will have to decide how to find out what's going on, and whose side to come down on. So the adventure will resolve by who they decide to work with. But this is where it gets to be a lot of work. The early stages of the adventure, as we go through them, are lots of time where the players are doing repetitive work, but they have lots of their own time. And it's very reliant on the players building contacts within Ireland. Because obviously, they're in Ireland, they're away from their ordinary contacts, so they can't rely on those. So they need to have built a new base of contacts before they move on. And if they don't do this, then they're in a very bad situation later on. So the Games Master has pushed them into that. But also, they have to make sure that the hit goes the way that the adventure dictates, so the players don't interfere with that too much. And then the players have all the investigation and stuff to do later. So there's a lot of reliance on the players finding information out. So there's so many ways that players can mess this adventure up. There's a lot of work for the Games Master, is what I'm saying. So we've first got the players getting contacted by a fixer. He's hiring them as bodyguards for a potential New York mayor that they're going to be going to Ireland. They go out and they meet with the team to see who they're going to be dealing with. So there's Patrick, Seamus McNamara, if you couldn't get a more Irish name than that, Casper Rosenberg, Anthea Brown, and some other minor characters. And they'll find out all the information, including what weapons they can take. They can take heavy pistols and below. They won't be able to take machine guns, assault rifles, panther cannons, that kind of stuff. They're also going to be limited as to what decks they can take. So they're not going to be able to take really souped up decks. They're basically going to be using fairly standard equipment. Mages themselves aren't too restricted, except for weapon focuses. They can take spell focuses, spell foci, spell locks, etc. But weapon focuses are kind of out. Carrying a big sword onto a plane, not going to be looked at. We've got the bit about the trip. So, very short. Basically, they've got passes for what they've got, so they're going to get through very quickly. Don't ask for scotch. We have the itinerary for the different days, so how their visit will go. And this is what's going to be played through, that the players won't know what will happen when they hit. So they've got the full itinerary here. but it's got lots of spare time for them to go out and make contacts and meet people. So we've got downtime in Dublin, and that's the bit where they're going to be meeting various groups and making contacts. Lots of legwork to be done, lots of free time, lots of anti-American feelings, etc. Then we've got this section where it goes through who they're going to meet, who will have more effect on the adventure. And then we've got the meeting with the Mafia, where the players are going out to a lodge, doing the bodyguard, when a bunch of terrorists turn up. So the players have to counter the assault, but get framed for it. So go on the run. They're basically in the forest in Ireland, without any support, hunted by the police, wanted as potential terrorists, because McSweeney has sold them out and created a link between them and the terrorists, so it's as if they set it up. When the smoke clears, getting mobile, so pointing a gun at somebody's head and robbing a car, hiring a vehicle, whatever they're going to do to get away from the area. Petra's one of the people they can have connected with earlier, who can possibly provide them somewhere to go. There's lots of different places and the different connections they can have made. But if they never did all that, if you tell them they've got hours off and they spend it slumming around a hotel instead of going out and meeting contacts, all of this is for nothing. Then we've got the later sections where they're being hunted by the police, they are working against McSweeney to get the information, until eventually they have everything, they've hacked the databases, they've found everything out. They come down to confronting McNamara and revealing the truth, or they can meet up with McSweeney and try and get him to get out of things. Got various encounters, and then we've got the end game. So the various negotiations. Oh, I've skipped over a couple of pages there. And finally we've got picking up the pieces. So what if happens? If they fail by going to the police, for example, and trying to reveal everything that, they end up going to jail. It mentions a 2d6 year prison term. No matter what evidence they've got, they're not going to be able to convince the police. So that's the wrong way to go. If they succeed and they get all the information, they make a deal with McNamara, the potential mayor, who will help them out, but will feel that they have dangerous information, so will become a fixer for them, setting them up on more missions. But they will be dodgy missions. There'll be hits, there'll be wet work, as they call it, so the players will have a bad reputation, so can't sell him out in the future, because he's got so much dirt on them. They can make a deal with the elves, they can cut a deal with one of the policemen, and they can make a deal with O'Toole to get smuggled out if everything goes wrong. And then we've got awarding karma, we've got the legwork sections where there's all the research, we've got the cast of shadows, including Sweeney, Bridget O'Toole, Petra Johnston, Martin O'Neill, Dominic O'Brien, very, very Irish names, some handouts, including the itinerary, some maps of Dublin, then maps of the large hotel, the hotel rooms, restaurants, various places they'll be going with the mayor early on, and various handouts for what happens in the results of it, whether McNamara gets enough support and wins the election, or whether his campaign's in ruins. McNamara is hinted that he will stand a chance to go on and run for the presidency. So he could be a very powerful contact for the players. Now, I kind of skipped over the later parts of that, because it is so much relating on what the players do, what they find out. As I said, this adventure is very much about the games master having to make sure the players follow the right leads. It's a very good adventure, there's a lot going on in here, and it's done a lot better than many of the other fish out of water adventures. But I do feel it leaves a lot for the games master to do, and could be problematic where the players just don't follow the hints, they just don't follow the GM's guidance, and everything goes wrong, and the end of the adventure is your players go to jail. Oh dear, that's the end of your campaign. So that was Celtic Double-Cross, and that won the poll this week with an absolutely triumphant 45% of the vote. Now this was an all Shadowrun poll, because every other time Shadowrun goes up against something else, it always beats it. So it's nice just to get it out of the way for a while, and give other smaller games a chance. So that came in on 45%, in second place was Dark Angel on 30%. Way back behind was Eyewitness on 13% and A Killing Glare with 12%. Now they're all put aside, and we're going back to a RetroRPG poll. But we're back to all viewer suggestions. So these are games I'm not familiar with at all. So it'll be fun to look through them, and I hope one of them starts dominating the poll very quickly so I've got time to read up on it rather than cramming everything in the last day. But anyway, what we've got up is GURPS Swashbucklers. Now the only version I could find was the 3rd edition from 1999. Now, I don't know why this was suggested. GURPS books are always a good read though. They're fantastically researched, so it's going to be worthwhile looking through. And it should be a whole load of fun, swashbuckling, great stuff. After that, we've got Against the Dark Master, which came out from Open Indie Games in 2021. Now, this is a retro clone of an older game, so it'll be fun to look through and see how it works. Now, this is one which is very new, but it's also a very massive book, so there'll be a lot to go through in this. I don't know whether that's going to be a whole load of fun, or whether it's going to be so much work I'm going to be stressed all week, but we shall see. After that, we've got Legend of the Five Rings from Five Rings Publishing Group in 1997. Now this very narrowly lost the last time it was in, so I hope it gets a good chance this time. It'd be nice to have a look through. I heard a lot of good things about it when it came out, although it's not a game I paid a lot of attention to. And finally, we've got Boot Hill 3rd edition from TSR in 1990. Now, I covered the 1st edition a while ago, and somebody wanted me to look into the later editions, where it becomes more of a role-playing game than the skirmish game. Now, I had a brief look through the 2nd edition, and it looks like it's still very much a skirmish game. There doesn't seem to be much role-playing in it. Although, as we go on, if there's still a desire for us to look through Boot Hill stuff, I will go back. But I thought I'd move on to 3rd edition. It's from 1990 from TSR, so we know it's going to be good quality. And it'll be interesting to see how Boot Hill evolved from its 1970s origin into a full role-playing game. What else has been going on? Well, over on DrivethruRPG, I've been releasing some classes and stuff. I released a bunch of Christmas adventures way back when, and I'm going to be writing some new adventures. I definitely want to flesh out some ideas I've got and see how that goes. And over on RPG Gamer, well, I'm working my way through the Young Jedi Adventures. It's a kids show and it's surprisingly fun, but I'm also doing episode by episode as Skeleton Crew comes out, and when that series completes, I'll be doing all the stats for it. But on Young Jedi Adventures, I'm doing the review one day and doing the stats from that episode the next. As always, if people are familiar with the Star Wars D6 system and they are interested in contributing and suggesting changes, because I don't get everything right, please come on over, check what I'm doing and make comments, and we'll adapt things as we go along. But anyway, as usual, I think I've been wittering on for quite long enough, so thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves. And I'll catch you later. Bye now.